What's up guys? So I was thinking of a video idea for today and decided to compile all of my collaborations together. Chances are you've probably never heard me narrate these stories before because they've never been on the channel. I'm also going to leave a link down in the description to all of the channels that these stories were featured in. Hope you enjoy the video. There is a mountain that I live near that I collect stones on here in Oregon. Quartz crystals, tourmaline, gold, you name it. It's an old mining area that has abandoned mine shafts and dilapidated old buildings from the 1800s. The roads up this mountain are treacherous, taking quite a while to get up if you accidentally take the wrong, unmaintained roads. One day my roommate and I decided to go collect stones up there. It was spring and the weather was great. We hadn't seen signs of other people all day. A quiet day in the national forest as kids were still in school. We made it up the mountain and set up camp. We poked around the area, finding a few crystals here and there, and even though I had been up this mountain many times, something felt off this time. This crude camping area with its makeshift toilet was extremely remote, but I had never felt strange there before. It's as if we were being watched. That feeling you get in your subconscious that you cannot seem to shake, but I did, and we carried on with our day. At around 9 PM, after preparing a fire and some food, we decided to head to bed. The tent was about 50 feet from the car and that made me feel comfortable. I have hiked constantly in super extreme remote areas for many years now and have run into some sketchy situations. It's not comforting when you are scared and hours away from a vehicle on foot. The forest can become overwhelming under those circumstances. But this time was different. We had the car right there, so what could go wrong? I had just about fallen asleep and my roommate was already out like a light when the noise caught my attention. It sounded like the brush just in the tree line shaking. We were surrounded by forest all around except for a boulder field to the back of our tent, up against a massive mountain peak with an amazing rock face. I sat there listening to the bushes shake, wondering what could be out there. It's not unusual to have an elk or small animals like opossums come into camp and walk through, but this was something big. What happened next made my blood run cold. I hear the bushes stop shaking, and something takes a step onto the ground. It had a loud step. I know that sounds strange, but that's the best way to describe it. It then proceeds to walk right up to the tent. What made me lose my cool mentally was it was on two legs. I could identify right away that this was not a four-legged usual coming around camp. I laid there as still as I could and listened. All I could hear was heavy breathing. Then it all went quiet. Again, I hear the bushes rattle, and it walks up to the tent again. The bizarre part is I never heard it walk back away from the tent. That really messed with my head. After a few minutes of silence had passed, I jammed my roommate in the ribs with my elbow and whispered, as uncomfortable making a noise made me feel, for him to listen. Just be quiet and listen. After a few minutes of him looking at me like I had lost my mind, the bushes shook and the, whatever it was, walked up to the tent again. My roommate's eyes got big and he whispered, "Oh my god, that's 2 feet." He knew how I felt by the look on my face and didn't even expect a response. We sat there for a good 20 minutes listening to this thing walk up to the tent over and over, but never walk away. Then, whatever it was, walked over to the crude bathroom and started shaking it violently. Both of us now laying up in our sleeping bags, debating in our minds what to do next. After a good 45 minutes of all of this going on, everything got silent, so we sat there for about another 20 minutes, still, silence. That's when I turned to my roommate and said, "We need to go." I had had well enough by this time. All we had for defence was a small axe in the tent with us, which, looking back, was so very foolish. I grabbed the axe and said, "We are going to book it to the car, get in and lock the doors," and we did just that. We ripped the tent zipper down the fastest we could without getting it caught and hightailed it right for the car. My roommate turned on the car immediately and turned the headlights on, illuminating the entire camping area with our tent right in front of the car. Nothing. No signs of anything in our limited visual field. My roommate then jumps out of the car, runs up and grabs the tent with everything in it, runs back and throws it all on the back seat, and we take off down the mountain in the pitch black. The entire time I'm expecting whatever that thing was to come running out at the car. I have camped up in this area since a few good times, as I kid you not, it is one of the most beautiful, pristine, subalpine areas you will ever see. I've had 2 other experiences, though both we were camping in the car, as I will never ever sleep in a tent again. The natives used to call this area Skookum Mountain and said it was haunted by the evil god of the woods. The miners had a rough time here, rugged country filled with many perils. When I was 19, already been in the military for just under a year. This is relevant to a point I want to make later. I was home visiting in the summer. A friend and I were camping out in a branch of the Canadian River where all the locals go mudding and rock crawling. My friend, I'll call him M for this story, was smoking trees, and I had just opened my second beer and we were waiting on 2 more of our friends to come out. It was an incredibly pleasant night for camping. Perfect weather, clear sky. It was about an hour after sundown and we had just got our camp set up and were chilling listening to music. Procrastination at its best. Our campsite was literally our campsite. It was so far back in the more difficult to reach area where you either need to hike for miles or have a serious off-road capable vehicle. It's at the base of a train bridge that spans about 500 feet, with the bridge being about 100 feet above the river bottom and sheer cliffs on either side. Many times we would be camping and trains would go across at night. The conductors would wave flashlights out as a little hello when they see our fire and we would wave back. Because of the age of the bridge, or just their sop, I'm not sure, they would always slow down before traversing, so it's usually at a crawl. This night, we happened to look up and see bright lights over the rim of the cliff. Thinking it was just a train, we waited and watched until the train crested over the rim. That was when I noticed that the bright lights over the rim didn't progress along the front engine when we actually saw the train. The front car had its own lights, but the night sky was still lit up like there was still a train coming. Like I said, normally the conductors would wave and honk their horns, but this one was silent, even when we shined our lights up at them. Then I saw it. Hovering above the train, and moving at a slower pace, was something that took my breath away. If I had to guess, it was about 15 feet above the train, and had all kinds of lights on board. We both stood there and stared at it, until it was about perpendicular to us. Then it stopped. M started walking towards it with a look on his face that could only be described as wonder, kind of that look on Apu's face in Aladdin when they first go into the Cave of Wonder. When he got closer to the bridge, it slid to the opposite side until he got under the bridge, then it slid back towards me. When M saw that he couldn't see anything, he started to come back and it slid over the train, which was still moving by the way. After he got back to where I was standing, a spotlight came down from the craft onto us. The light was so intense I could feel the heat from it, and this was from at least 100 feet. I remember falling to my knees and being unable to look away. I also couldn't breathe properly as soon as the light turned on us, like that feeling you get if you are about to pass out from oxygen deprivation, but I didn't pass out. I don't remember if M had the same experience because all I could see was the light. Then the spotlight turned off and the craft started moving along with the train again. About 3/4 of the way across the bridge, the craft veered off and climbed at a crazy speed until we couldn't see it anymore. After the thing disappeared, it took quite a few minutes for me to get my mind right again. The phrase, "we've been chosen to tell everyone," kept repeating in my head for some reason. Naturally, one doesn't go and plan on telling anything along those lines unless you want to be branded as crazy. Em and I had no explanation for what happened, so the following conversation didn't progress past, "Did you see that dude?" I told him what I was thinking, about the whole tell everyone part, and he would only shake his head. We both knew it was a bad idea, so until tonight I haven't mentioned it to anyone. Another thing we noticed was that the portable stereo we were listening to somehow lost all power sometime during the event. The batteries in it were dead along with the extras we brought with us. The clock in his truck also reset and the battery had to be jumped the next morning. It didn't have enough power left to turn over, only to barely run the electronics. The size of it would only have been similar to Chinook, except that there was no sound. I've been around and in shithooks, and they are so ridiculously loud that you need hearing protection or you'll get permanent hearing loss. Its acceleration was also greater than any other helicopter that I'm aware of, especially one of that size. Hello, my name is Mitch. I'm here to tell you guys about an experience I had. I don't know if it was paranormal, or whatever stupid words people use to describe supernatural phenomena, but after that thing visited me, I believe in that paranormal trash now. A week after I moved in with my brother, Edwin, after my house was foreclosed, I finished unpacking. Edwin liked the idea of me moving in, since we had not seen each other in after 10 years, so I was excited too. I soon fell asleep after I moved in. After that 1 week, I heard rustling noises coming from outside at about 1 in the morning. I thought it was a raccoon, so I ignored and I tried to fall asleep. The next morning, I told Edwin about it, and he agreed. The next night, however, I thought I heard my window opening and a loud thump, as if something entered my room. I darted up and looked around my room, but I saw nothing. The next morning, Edwin dropped his coffee cup when he saw me. He held up a nearby mirror and I saw myself. I had a large gash in my left cheek. After I was rushed to the hospital, my doctor told me that I must have been sleepwalking. But then he showed me something that made my blood turn cold. He lifted up my shirt to reveal a sewn up incision where my kidneys were. I stared in his eyes, my eyes widening. You somehow lost your left kidney last night. We don't know how though. Sorry Mitch, my doctor told me. The next night was my breaking point. Around midnight, I woke up to see a truly horrifying sight. I was staring face to face with a creature with a black hoodie and a dark blue mask with no nose or mouth staring down at me. The thing that scared me the most was that it had no eyes, just empty black sockets. The creature also had some black substance dripping from its sockets. I grabbed the camera nearby on a mantle and took a picture. After the picture took, the creature lunged at me and tried to claw open my chest to get to my lungs. I stopped it by kicking it in the face. As I ran out of my room, I grabbed my wallet. I would need the money. I ran out of my brother's house into the night. I eventually ended up in the woods near Edwin's house and tripped on a rock. I fell unconscious and woke up in the hospital. My doctor entered the room, the same one who treated me before. I have good news and bad news, Mitch, my doctor started. The good news is that you had minor injuries and your parents are going to pick you up. I sighed with relief. The bad news is that your brother has been killed by some thing. Sorry. My parents took me back to Edwin's house to collect my remaining belongings, which I did. Upon entering my room, I was scared, but remained calm. I grabbed my camera, then stopped dead in my tracks. In the hallway, leading to my room, I saw Edwin's body and something small lying next to it. I picked up the small thing and entered my parents' car, not mentioning Edward's corpse. I looked at the thing I had picked up and nearly vomited. I was holding my stolen half-eaten kidney with some black substance on it. My family owns a farm in the heart of the Indian reservation. One winter, I was home for Christmas, taking care of the farm while my parents were away Christmas shopping. As I was home by myself, way late into the night, and I hear all of our cows freaking out. I knew it had to be the wild dogs that are rampant in the area. So I throw on some boots, grab a shotgun, load it up, and head out to the field. This was a perfect scenario for a horror movie. It was cloudy, but there was a full moon, and it was breaking through the clouds just right to light up all the snow. I ran out into the middle of the field, and just in time I see two dogs. They were standing up facing each other and fighting. I think, perfect, 2 for 1. So I pumped a shell into the chamber of Mr. 12 gauge, and then it happened. The two dogs heard the rack. They both stopped, looked over at me and ran away on their back legs. Immediately I froze, and every ghost story about skinwalkers and all the other native legends I grew up with flew through my mind. Keep in mind, I am a white guy, and up until then, these were all just boogeyman stories the native kids like to tell to scare us. That night, they became real to me.